Hi everyone, welcome to the Balanced Natural Health Podcast, where we share insights from the ancient science and timeless wisdom of Chinese medicine. Information from the old natural ways of healing can support us in leading more beautiful, more vibrant, and more vital lives today. In this podcast, I share simple, natural, and accessible tips that you can incorporate into your everyday life for more vibrant health and wellness. I'm so glad you're here. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 44. In today's episode, I would like to dive into something which feels particularly relevant to me personally due to my age and demographic. I'm now 47 years old, and also in response to what I'm seeing a lot of on social media, in mainstream, in the world around me, and that is the perception of menopause as a pathology to be medicated, and the perception of perimenopause as the cause of all ills, and also the attribution of all of the different symptoms or vital body messages that women might be experiencing at this time, the attribution of these always to, oh, it's just hormones and you need HRT. Whereas, as you probably know, if you've been listening to me for a while, I have long retired from the position of doing battle with my body, and I now see all symptoms as vital messages from the body, mind, and soul as to what my system wants me to know and what is coming up for me for integration and harmonizing at that point in time. And so in today's episode, I would like to talk about some of these, what I see as misconceptions about perimenopause and menopause. And I would like to dispel some myths. And I would also like to share a more empowering perspective on this powerful transition and how I personally am choosing to navigate it and step through it. So in Chinese medicine, perimenopause and the whole process of moving through menopause is viewed as the second spring. So it's viewed as a second puberty because we are literally in the process of metamorphosing ourselves into a different version of ourselves. We are moving from a period of our life where we are creative in the material realm, where we can create life, we can create humans, a whole new human body, which is such a miracle. And we are moving into a stage of life where we create energetic gifts to the world at this time. So all of our resources, or the resources that were formerly distributed to the womb, now start to move towards the heart, which houses the Shen and our consciousness. And together that portal of womb and heart can bring forth and birth so many powerful energies and ideas and so much wisdom into the world. In so many cultures and over eons of time, the crone or the wise grandmother was viewed as an archetype who had so much wisdom to impart. It was a really revered and respected archetype. And yet in our current iteration of society, we are being continually broadcast to that this is a burden, it's a inconvenience, it's the end of our relevance, that it's all downhill from here, that we will put on weight, that we will have brain fog, that we will be fatigued, that we'll have vaginal dryness, that we'll lose our libido and our moods, and that we'll go crazy and lash out at those around us, and a whole other litany of ills. And it doesn't have to be that way. I do think that there is a bit of self-fulfilling prophecy when we keep being broadcast this message from so many angles that it is something to be feared. And that adds another dimension to this process of transition, because stress can very much influence how we move through this really powerful period of our lives. So while I always honor and celebrate the choice of women to take HRT, I think it's amazing that people have choices to do what they want to with their body and their health. I also think that there are other ways to move through this transition, and it's definitely not the only way to move through it. I don't think that Mama Nature makes any mistakes, and when we look at the world around us, there are seasons and cycles to everything, and our bodies, minds, and souls are no different. So
while it might be touted in the mainstream that it's protective to the body, to your bones, to your cardiovascular system, to keep pumping your body full of these external hormones, which your body is no longer producing, I really question what the long-term effects of that are, because as I said, Mother Nature doesn't make mistakes. So if we're meant to sustain this level of circulating hormones and hormone production, our body would be producing it, right? And when we look into the literature around the potential side effects of supplementation, external supplementation like this, we can see that there definitely are risks. So this is a conversation for another time. In this podcast, I just want to share a different perspective on how we might be able to view perimenopause and second spring and this second puberty. And I love this idea of this transition, this perimenopausal transition, as a second puberty, because when we think about what a wild transition our first puberty was, then it gives us an inkling of how much grace and spaciousness and tenderness, compassion, patience we might want to give ourselves as we move through this second transition. Like, think how wild the ride was with the fluctuating hormones back in our teens when we were going through that transition, and all the different emotional landscapes that came up, and how we responded to different things, how we were finding our own power and expression into the world. And this period is no different. I think it's a really exciting invitation to look at how we've been living, what kind of beliefs and assumptions we've had about ourselves, what kind of life habits we've fallen into, and how we might want to live our lives going forward. And one symptom that is, or symptom that is often talked about with regards to perimenopause is the mood swings. And this is often attributed to the fluctuations of specifically estrogen, but also progesterone, because estrogen is our buffering hormone. It is soft and juicy making, and it is what allows us to put up with shit, basically, or put up with things that are maybe not in alignment with our highest good. It allows us to put up with self-sacrificing situations or enmeshment. And what I have found as my estrogen has dropped throughout this transition is that I have had to look at where I have been people pleasing, where I have been giving away my power. And also, having less estrogen has made me less inclined to self abandon and sacrifice my energy, to compromise my boundaries, and just to say no to things that are leaking my energy or things that are no longer serving me. So, whether that's activities or relationships or certain types of emotional bonding, for example, like bonding over drama, just not available for that anymore because it's such an energy drain. So, to me, this has been a gift. To me, having this drop in estrogen has shown me where I've been compromising my own energy, where there's been leaks. If I was supplementing with that hormone, then I wouldn't have had that clear vision of seeing where I've been self abandoning and what I can do to live my life differently and what I can do to call back that energy to myself. I also think that these mood swings that are talked about, or irritability and anger, can be a sign of where our boundaries have been transgressed, and whether now or in the past. And they offer an opportunity for witnessing, for feeling, and ultimately for healing those experiences, whether now or in the past. So, when we look at Mama Nature and expressions of what seems like anger, say in the animal kingdom, it's only happening where the animal feels threatened or encroached upon, or like their personal safety or boundaries are encroached upon. So, us humans are no different. And think about, as women in this society, I know I can certainly attest to this, and I wonder if many of you can relate as well. But how many times have we just swallowed back our words or just put up with poor behavior, say sexualizing us, or inappropriate comments? It's like, oh, well, he didn't really mean anything by it. Or maybe just ingrained patriarchy or judgment of women that I've even noticed within myself from my very repressive Polish religious upbringing. It's like I found some things in deep dark corners there. So things that were unexamined because we didn't have the capacity, perhaps, or the space, or we weren't resourced enough to have a look at those until now. So I think sometimes these life will present us with opportunities to heal those things that haven't yet been healed. So we might feel flashes of sacred rage about how the divine feminine or how the feminine expression has been mistreated, how we've experienced that, or how we've seen that in the world around us. Or we might feel grief about self-abandonment, about places maybe where we didn't stand up for ourselves, or about where we judged our own bodies harshly. So all of these feelings might move through our bodies, and sometimes even with the anger, we might get things like hot flushes. But I see this as energy being metabolized and processed. Energy is emotions are energy in motion. So being able to sit with these feelings and sensations and witness what they might be telling us can be a way to integrate them back into our system. And every woman's experience of this will be different because we have all walked different paths, different journeys. We've had different responses and different life experiences. So some might not experience the rage or the irritability or the hot flushes at all, or someone else might feel more grief or dissociation or low moods or low libido. So everyone's experience is different, and I think that the overarching takeaway of what I'm talking about here is that it's an opportunity to get to know ourselves on a deeper level, to sit with the feelings, to be like a best friend to ourselves and listen to what our body, mind, and soul is telling us. And I have a different perspective on many of the messages of perimenopause. So, where symptoms, and I'm using inverted commas here, like for example, fatigue, brain fog, low energy, low libido, irritability, hot flushes, poor sleep, insomnia, dissatisfaction with life, weight gain, all of these things are a complex that are lumped under the umbrella of perimenopause and the menopausal transition. I have a different view that these are symptoms that pop up at a period of life when we have been living a certain way and our body resources are taxed, our spiritual and mental resources are taxed because we have been spreading ourselves too thin. So perhaps rather than laying the blame at the feet of perimenopause, maybe we can look at, as we do in Chinese medicine, at what things might be out of balance that are causing these symptoms. And then we can look at gently supporting the body, mind, and soul to recreate balance and to ease our path through this transition. So, what I have seen in clinic and in my own experience, but certainly in clinic, what I have seen is that a common thread with many of the messages of perimenopause is that there is low yang, low spleen, so yang deficiency and spleen deficiency. Often the liver is backed up or stuck, and liver is related to anger and expression and frustration. And there's often dampness as well. So what we might hear even in the Chinese medicine mainstream is that it is a yin deficiency time, that we are deficient in yin, and that's why we are having those hot flushes. But I'll just go on a quick little sidebar here. That is absolutely not what I have seen. And there is another way of looking at it too, because in classical Chinese medicine, we don't really believe that in this modern world where nutrition is abundant, that there is such a thing as yin deficiency. It's not possible. If you have a body, if you have substance to your body, then you are not yin deficient. And in fact, if we were to believe the mainstream, one of the common symptoms associated with perimenopause is weight gain. So where there is substance, there's no yin deficiency. But what there is a deficiency of around this time is yang. So we can have substance, we can have fluids, we can have body flesh, but if we don't have the spark of life, the yang, to animate and metabolize and move those fluids and actually make that fluid useful and physiological, healthy to the body, then that fluid and that dampness just stagnates, and we do get weight gain, we do get heaviness, we do get low mood. So it's not the yin, it's the yang that needs to be cultivated. And when we look at how in our society, women have lived through the last few decades leading up to perimenopause, we see that there is often, compromised sleep because they're looking after kids, they're often having a job and looking after the family as well. So the women are always go, go, go. So they're always in yang mode, using up that vital force, that spark of life, and not having enough time to replenish it because of the demands of life. And when yang is deficient, when yang is low, it isn't anchored as it needs to be. So when yang is floating and unanchored, we see things like night sweats, insomnia, restless sleep, vivid dreams. These are really common yang deficient presentations. And when we start to nourish the yang by cooked and warm foods, by yang tonifying herbs, by prioritizing rest and time to recharge the yang, so we're not just spraying out yang all day, we're not just being boss babes and just smashing it and going hard. This is also something where heavy exercise or sweating too much, going too hard in the gym can also drain our yang. And it is really important to nourish our yang as we go through this transition at all stages of life, but especially as we go through this transition. So our yang is also burnt up by things like, famously, ice baths, as I love to talk about, but also stress. So stress squeezes our adrenals, that is our kidney yang energy. And when we are running often in a state of fight or flight, so when we're multitasking, eating lunch at the desk, dealing with things on all fronts, dealing with stress at work, at home, then this is draining our yang. And so this perimenopausal portal is an invitation to look at how we can nourish our yang a little bit more, how we can carve out a little bit of time, a little bit more time for ourselves to nourish our yang, to just rest and replenish. So it might even be bookending your day with 5 minutes of deep belly breathing. So I've talked about this before on my socials, but when we breathe and breathe deeply into the belly, into the whole abdomen, allowing the breath to just flow in, allowing our body to be breathed by that cosmic breath, and then we allow a long exhale that's unhurried, allowing that longer exhale compared to the inhale is replenishing of our yang, because it's a yin type of breath, so it's not using up our yang to maintain. Whereas if we take short, sharp inhales, we're not allowing sufficient time to exhale, that's really putting us in that fight or flight, that stress yang mode. So slow, deep breaths, yin breaths with a longer exhale can be a great way to replenish. We can even lie down while we're doing this with our hands on our belly or our ribs to feel how we are expanding and releasing. You can pop also a pillow under your knees to support your lumbar spine, which is where the kidneys live, so then they'll feel nestled and supported as well. So that is one aspect that I see commonly throughout this transition, is that of that yang deficiency or kidney yang deficiency. And another one I see is of spleen deficiency. So the spleen is our great nurturer, it's our organ of nurturing, and it is affected by worry and affected by overgiving and overcaring as well, which is so many mums, right? We're taking care as women as well of our families, of people at work, of our community. We naturally have that caring, I think, nourishing life impetus within us. And coupled with estrogen that accompanies that fertile period, I think it can sometimes lead to self-abandonment, where we're not nourishing ourselves as well. So interestingly, in the mainstream, if you listen to it, perimenopause is associated with weight gain around the belly and thighs. Now, this is a pattern that we see with spleen deficiency. When the spleen is deficient, this is where weight tends to deposit. And if we start to tend more carefully to the spleen at this time, then we don't have to necessarily see that transition or that change in our bodies. So I have worked with a lot of people who have certainly not experienced that, and I haven't either, because I have taken this time finally to look at my boundaries and look at where I was overstretching, overgiving, and prioritize caring for myself at this time. Because that is another invitation of this perimenopausal transition is, after decades of caring for others, how can we care for ourselves at this time? What do we need? How can we tune more and more deeply into the desires and whispers of our body, mind, and soul, and do what feeds ourselves and our souls at this time? So if we're looking after our spleen yang and our kidney yang at this time, then that definitely supports a smoother transition through perimenopause. So the other two areas that I talked about were liver and damp. So I'll briefly touch on dampness. That's often related to presentations like weight gain, brain fog, perhaps like depressed or low mood, low libido, low excitement about life, because damp can be like a heavy blanket or fog that just suppresses the spark of life. It suppresses the yang. It is the opposite to yang because it's dense fluid. So it's part and parcel. It's usually linked to the generalized yang and spleen deficiency. But things that we can do to support both our spleen and metabolizing damp at this time are absolutely cooked and warm food and drinks. So every time you eat or drink something, it's an opportunity to put warmth and yang inside your body. So when we have drinks that are warmer than our mouth, food that is warmer and well cooked, it uses less energy to digest. It boosts our chi, boosts our energy, and supports the spleen in doing its work, and can stop the backup of dampness. And also at this time, we might want to take particular care with the foods that we do choose. So always leaning towards whole foods, minimally processed. I've talked about this a lot on socials, so you can look back through my posts, but avoiding things like seed oils, preservatives. So many grains these days are sprayed with glyphosate, which is Roundup, which has already had many lawsuits awarded against it as a carcinogen. So things like, unfortunately, unless you're eating completely organic or regeneratively farmed grains like wheat, corn, soy, they are sprayed with glyphosate. And this is not only a hormone disruptor, but it causes inflammation by interrupting digestion and overburdening our liver as well. So definitely looking at, personally, I'm gluten-free. I see a lot of benefits for patients when they go gluten-free because they avoid a lot of those grains that are sprayed with glyphosate and Roundup. On the nutrition front, I would also add having adequate time to eat. So it's not just what we eat, but how we eat. So taking time to eat away from stress, away from other distractions. The spleen also digests life experiences. So if we're eating at the desk, then our spleen isn't really devoting all of its, or not able to devote all of its attention to the task at hand. So how we eat is important, and also ensuring that we have protein and fats with our meals as well. So we need that consistent energy. However, I'm not one for micromanaging macros. So I'm not one who's counting my protein at all costs or my fat intake or carbs. I don't count any of that. I've come to a point now where I listen to my body and allow my body to tell me what it needs, and take it from there. So it changes day to day. So some days I want more protein, other days I want less. And this has been a journey for me because when I was in my 20s and 30s, I had such a poor relationship with my body that I was willingly starving myself and suppressed all connection to what hunger felt like, or even ignoring my cues for what I felt like eating. I was a vegetarian and later raw vegan at the time. I was having such cravings for protein, for animal protein, and I was suppressing and ignoring that as well. So again, it's coming back into alignment with the whispers of our body, mind, and soul, because our bodies are always talking to us about what we need and what would best serve us, but it's an invitation to come into greater alignment with that. And that is something that I am covering in an upcoming course that's coming out this year about getting into a deeper conversation with yourself, befriending yourself coming home to you. And also, while we're talking about the spleen stuff, there's another course coming on that topic as well. So all of that information is packaged up in one package, guiding you through how to construct your own meals, how you can customize meals to your needs day to day, what kind of foods might boost yang, which ones might be more damp causing, what herbs and spices we can use, and so on. And there's plenty of this also, this information in my old podcasts and on my socials and website as well. So feel free to have a look through there. Now, the final area that I see commonly out of balance is liver. So liver is the wood organ. It's related to the emotion of anger and frustration. So when we think of wood, it likes to spread its wings or spread its branches and leaves and fully express its full potential. And when it is thwarted, then we have anger and frustration or resentment. These can all be emotions related to the liver, and they're emotions that commonly show up in perimenopause, irritability, restlessness as well. And the wood element and liver gallbladder also rules cyclical things, so things that come and go. So at this time, the liver is managing fluctuating hormones. Our cycles might change in length or duration. So the liver is really dealing with a lot. And at all stages of life, I suggest keeping our toxin bucket or our toxic load small so that our body can do what it knows how to do, which is heal and rebalance. But especially at this time when we are processing extra hormones, potentially hormone spikes, I think it's really important to give the liver some love. So we can do this with things like movement. The liver loves to move. Obviously, it likes to spread its branches. But also things like, because the associated gallbladder channel runs down the lateral aspects of the body. So even things like swinging our arms side to side, so rotating at the waist, side bands, things that open up that side area of the body can be really wonderful to open up circulation to that area. I also love leafy greens and the brassica family for supporting the liver. So lots of broccoli, cauliflower, bok choy, mustard greens, bitter flavors. These are really important in supporting the liver, supporting its function, supporting bile production as well. Bile is such a powerful antioxidant. So we need to make sure that that is functioning in our body as well. So looking after the liver in that respect. I find also stream of consciousness journaling can be helpful for supporting the liver because it helps us to offload certain stored or repressed emotions that might be lingering, or too many browser tabs that are open in our mind. So just dumping all of that can free up the liver. And the liver is also charged with coursing energy through the body, and energy and emotions are linked. So the more that we can sit with emotions as they come up will also help to free any constrained liver chi or liver energy. And the other big thing for liver with the toxic load is looking at what we put in and on our bodies. So I go into great detail in this in episodes 2 and 3, but basically if you wouldn't eat it, then I wouldn't put it on my body. So that has very much changed what kind of body products I use, like toothpaste, deodorant, moisturizer, hand soap, body soap, what we use in the home as well. Big culprits are synthetic fragrances. So these often pop up in like room sprays and perfumes. That's another big culprit. Essential oil perfumes for the win every time. And scented candles, carb, scenty things, anything scented basically, and in detergents and different like laundry liquids and so on, they often have a lot of synthetic fragrances, which are endocrine disruptors. They're hormone disruptors, so they're disrupting us at already potentially a bit of a wild roller coaster time with our hormones, and also they overload the liver. So I recently did a post about low tox and no tox beauty products. There's so many options. We're so spoilt for choice these days, and it doesn't have to be all done in one foul sweep. So you can even just choose to replace old products with products that are no tox each time as you go forward. So it doesn't have to be throwing everything out all at once, although it can be if you want as well. So definitely looking at the liver and how we can support it in that way too. I will also add with liver, you might want to experiment with how it feels for you if you reduce or eliminate alcohol, because the liver is obviously heavily involved in processing this, and also fructose. So this is the fruit sugar that's in fruit. So in Chinese medicine, we are not big fans of fruit. It's a seasonal treat at best, and fructose is metabolized differently to glucose, which is why in my spleen programs that I devise for patients, I advise sweeteners like rice malt syrup or pure glucose, because they are glucose, not fructose. So it metabolizes through the body quite differently. So that's something we might want to play around with and see if we feel any differently. Personally, I stopped drinking alcohol and I have absolutely noticed a difference with my cycles, and also just a few kilos of weight dropped off that I wasn't even doing anything specific about. I think at the same time, also as I stopped the alcohol, I have also been going on a deeper dive in somatically feeling, so on a body level, feeling and releasing a lot of trapped emotions. So that has also allowed my energy to flow more freely, and I think it's metabolized some stuck things that were literally weighing me down. And to support all of these little lifestyle changes and diet changes, habit changes that we can make to support yang, to support spleen, to clear damp, and support liver, I would also add the importance of elimination. I notice at this time sometimes elimination, bowel movements can get a bit sluggish for some women, and this is where the belly breathing can be really powerful. So in Chinese medicine, the lung and large intestine are linked as the metal element. So when we breathe deep belly breaths, when we breathe into the whole abdomen and we gently inquire about tight areas and we allow the breath to expand and release those tight areas, then we're also supporting peristalsis and digestion. We're supporting the function of the intestines. Just think, like, if you put your hands on your belly right now and take a deep breath right down, we're actually massaging the intestines. So many patients find that just with some deep breathing or some really simple qigong movements that support large intestine and lung, or that metal element, that's enough just to get their bowels moving regularly. So it's important that we're eliminating regularly so that those toxins can get eliminated from the body, so that our liver isn't backed up and pissed off. And I would also add the importance of joy and cultivating play and lightness, and prioritizing those things that make us feel good, that give us pleasure, that light our hearts up. I've spoken before about how in Chinese medicine, the heart and womb are intimately linked. So they're linked under the fire element. And interestingly, just a little sidebar, they're linked to the fire element, which is ruled by the bitter flavor. And did you know that both the womb and the heart have bitter flavor receptors in them? It's pretty wild, isn't it? So when we cultivate joy, we are feeding the fire element, we're feeding the heart, we're nourishing it. And this can be such a wonderful remedy for low libido, low moods, fatigue, because if we're not if there's nothing pleasurable or fun or joyful to focus on, then of course we're going to feel less excited about life. So this can be as simple as a daily gratitude practice, and picking, say, 5 things every day that you're grateful for, but not just listing them, also somatically feeling them. So somatically just means in the body, actually cultivating the feeling of gratitude while you're also thinking about those things. So it might be a warm and fuzzy glowing feeling in the chest, or a softness in the body. So the more we can practice that, the more the body becomes accustomed to feeling that way. And it doesn't have to be major things. It can be simple things that we're grateful for, like the fact that we have fresh air coming into our lungs, or that there's sunshine outside, or we can reflect on, say, a beautiful interaction we had that day, or the food on our plates. There's so much to be grateful for in each moment. And we can also cultivate this in thinking about a favorite memory or someone that we love dearly, and cultivating that love and that beautiful feeling of joy in our hearts. So I hope this has been interesting, maybe thought-provoking, maybe a different perspective on how we can view this time, which I think is an exciting and empowering portal. I'm excited for it, and I'm excited for who I'm becoming and who we all get to be on the other side. And I will add too that even if you've already moved through menopause, or you've had a hysterectomy, or maybe you've had medically induced menopause of whatever kind, that it's still an invitation for you now, if it resonates, to incorporate perhaps some of these tweaks into your life, because this second spring transition isn't only a material one concerning our physical reproductive organs, it's a whole energetic metamorphosis. So we are moving from creating on the material plane to creating on the energetic plane. We are stepping into our wisdom era. It's really, really exciting. So it's never too late. We can incorporate some of these observances and things to get curious about at any stage of life, even if we're younger than the perimenopausal transition. It's never too early to come home to ourselves and develop that relationship with ourselves. And I hope that this has shone a different light on this transition, where perimenopause is not the scapegoat for everything that is going on in a woman's life. I've had so many patients share with me their stories of gaslighting within the mainstream system, where they've gone for help with things that have popped up around this time, and it's all been lumped under the hormone umbrella, and oh well, just have to take HRT or get over it, rather than a deepening and a curiosity into that connection to self. So that is available to all of us. We can all come out of this transition more connected, more empowered, more ourselves than we were coming into it. So I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any on this, if you have any questions, please let me know over on socials. And please share this message with anyone who you feel might benefit from this perspective, or who might feel empowered or unburdened by a different perspective on this beautiful portal that we are walking through. It's something that I feel so passionate about changing the narrative on, or at least offering a different voice, because I feel like as women, we are so often, so many of our natural processes that Mama Nature has wisely created within us are pathologized. So childbirth and periods are pathologized and suppressed and medicalized, and menopause is no different. I think it's actually, on a bigger scale, it's an important way of reclaiming our feminine power and stepping into that feminine power as well. So please share, and thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time.